Hi, Shabbat Shalom. It's good once again to be pursuing our conversations together about the meaning of Torah in what has truly become a global conversation. I even recently learned that some of you listen to our discussion while driving. Now that's great, but please keep your eyes on the road and only after you've parked then hit share so that others may participate in our conversations as well. That's pretty exciting. Our Sedra this week is Bahalotcha, beginning with Numbers chapter 8, verse 1. Bahalotcha is a true potpourri filled with highly suggestive texts. This is what we call easy living time for rabbis who are looking for sermon topics. It's all here. There are so many good things here. For example, there are instructions about how to build the menorah, the 7-branch candelabrum, and a restatement of the fact that the Levites are expected to be the replacement for the firstborn in becoming the religious servants of God in the midst of the people. There's even the institution of a Pesach Sheni, a second Passover, for those people who, for whatever reason, because they were impure, because they were just impossible to do, couldn't observe a Pesach B'yomo, Passover, on its appropriate day. So we now have a Pesach Sheni, a month later, in which it can be observed. We have the institution of the silver trumpets, the Chatzotzrot, the trumpets that were to be sounded at every occasion in which the people had to be gathered together for celebration, for partying in times of danger, in times of warfare. There were different notes to be sounded, and people would know what it is just by hearing those notes. And the tribes were given their marching orders, and I mean that most literally. The tribe of Judah would be the lead tribe in the march through the wilderness. Then a little bit would come along those who were carrying the disassembled Mishkan, the tabernacle, so that by the time most of the people reached the next destination, the tabernacle could already have been set up and would be waiting for them there. Acharon Chaviv, the last of the last, Dan, Naphtali, and Asher, last tribes in the row. Then there were rebellions. First rebellion was led by something which is called the Asafsuf, the riffraff. They cried out that even as slaves in Egypt, they had better food than they did now in the wilderness. They appreciated the fact that God provided the manna. It was boring, it was tasteless, whatever. It was what it was. And they lamented the fish and cucumbers and melons and onions and garlics that were given to them while they were slaves in Egypt. Rebellion against Moses because of boring food. Moses falls into what we would call scripturally a funk. He falls into a deep depression and demands that God kills him. I can't put up with this people any longer, this unruly and ungrateful people. And then another rebellion, this time led by Aaron and Miriam, Moses' brother and sister. They began spreading some nasty rumors about their brother Moses after he took a second wife, a Cushite woman, apparently Ethiopian. God is furious with them, and Miriam is immediately punished with leprosy. Aaron apparently got away with a reprimand. It's kind of an unbalanced response here, another topic for another day. In the middle of it, Moses prays to have his sister relieved of her leprosy and teaches rabbis a very important lesson. His prayer consists of, El na rafan Allah, God, please heal her. In times of stress, you don't have to go on for paragraphs. But let's just focus on one theme here, and I promise that over the years, we'll get back to a whole bunch of other themes. Let's talk about the role of fire in the Torah. Take a minute now to think. Where does fire appear in the Torah? When God first appeared to Moses in the burning bush. The hail, one of the 10 plagues, was sent to have fire locked up in the fragments of ice. the steady flame, the ner tamid, that was to burn in front of the Mishkan, the pillar of fire that led the people in their wilderness wandering, the murderous fire that was sent by God to punish Nadav and Avihu, and then, of course, there was the 7-branch menorah. Fire is everywhere. There is something in the human spirit that profoundly responds to the twin dimensions of fire, the life-giving and the devastating force that fire represents. Risa and I once visited a Zoroastrian fire temple in Mumbai, in India. Though, of course, we did not go in. We spoke with a Zoroastrian adept and learned that fire has been associated with core Zoroastrian practice for close to 4,000 years. But now there is evidence that fire was first connected with worship in the ancient Middle East some 800,000 years ago. The Greeks, much later on, saw that fire properly was so important that it was a possession of the gods. And it took Prometheus's act of brave thievery to bring the gift of fire to humankind. In Proverbs, it teaches that the human soul is a lamp of God. Think of that. The human soul illumines the dark places of our lives. We are urged to walk in the light of the eternal. And in more modern times, of course, there is this incredible poem by Chana Senish, Ashrei HaGafror, Blessed is the match. Blessed is the match that is consumed in kindling the fire. So fire also has been a symbol of martyrdom, surrendering my life so that new fires, new life can be continued in the generations ahead. Fire is wisdom, fire is enlightenment, fire is purity, fire is destruction. Fire consumes the flesh and reduces us to ashes. Fire warms our body and heats our food. Fire drives away the demons of the night. Fire is the core feature of damnation, burning in hell. Fire is the symbol par excellence of transformation and rebirth, as seen through the mythological descriptions of that wondrous bird, the phoenix. All is destroyed in fire. All are united in fire. What is stirred up within us when we sit contemplating a campfire in darkened woods, or when we are bathed in the presence of Shabbat light at our dinner table, or when we become aware of the Ner Tamid flickering above the Aron HaKodesh when we're sitting in synagogue? Now, these are deeply personal questions. I can't answer them for you, but I'd like to offer some personal reflections. In the presence of contained fire, I am aware of purity and of cleansing, that I'm not trapped in my sins, not enslaved by my mistakes. Fire, at least as it impacts upon me, promises that I can rise higher than I am now, that I can be transformed into someone closer to what my own personal expectations are, that change is possible for me. Fire. In the presence of contained fire, I'm able to feel that I am more than merely flesh and blood, a bioelectronic product of evolution. I sense that there exists within me something more than that which animates me, something that connects me with mysteries far larger than I will ever be able to comprehend. You want to call that fire soul? Okay, call it soul. The label doesn't matter. As I gaze into that fire, I am entering into a sphere far more expansive than I could ever dream to be. That fire is part of me, and part of me is that fire. And that must be why Hindus state that the eternal self, the Atman, emerges from the Brahman, the ultimate reality. The way that a spark emerges from a flame only to eventually return to that flame. I totally love that metaphor. In the presence of contained fire, I sense the bipolarity of existence, so much evil, So much good, so much hope, so much despair, so much that can be repaired, so much that is shattered forever. And with that vision, I rediscover a role for myself, a way to make my life more meaningful than it otherwise might be. My friends, fire can be that pillar helping to guide us toward reaching higher, doing better, seeing more clearly, acting with greater wisdom, caring more profoundly, transforming ourselves as an act of intentional rebirth. So, let the poets and the psychologists and the physiologists continue to plumb the meaning of fire for us. While they do their work, fire will continue to shape how we engage with this universe so very filled with mystery. That's it. That's it for this week. Shabbat Shalom. And please, don't forget to hit share once you've pulled over to the side of the road. Have a great week and see you next week. Shabbat Shalom.